There is a moon near Starbase 46, and I understand they have the most esteemed Caecilian opera house, where they are currently performing La Boheme. I could be your date.
Are you saying you'll actually sit through that with me?
Just this jump. And then I'm going to have a lot of free time on my hands.
Set a course for love.
Ah, yes. One of your earth emotions.
Glad I found you.
Let's get married.
Delete the wife.
Welcome back, everyone, to Deep Space Love, the Star Trek podcast, where a married Trekkie couple explore love in all its forms throughout the final frontier. I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
I'm one of the other hosts, Joe.
You are the only other host on this podcast, Joe.
In a technical sense, yes.
Yeah. Although today we are joined by two very special guests, one returning and one new. So we've got a great mix for y'all today. Let's bring in Matt Jennings, who previously appeared on the podcast in episode 22. Matt is an award-winning actor and creator of the web series 1701, A Blurred Story. Episode 3 is currently out on YouTube, and star of the new sci-fi film Jamal. Welcome back, Matt.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be back. Good to see you guys again.
You too. When did Jamal come out?
Yeah.
Jamal came out about a week ago. It's so crazy. It's already been a week.
Oh, wow.
It came out a week ago at the
Brand new.
AI Film Festival. This is the first film festival that it made it into. And it's still being submitted to other places. It's going to be available to watch soon. It's just it's a short film about this android that has been introduced into this gay couple's home as a third, more or less, and hijinks ensue.
Ooh.
And I got to
That
play
they do.
Jamal, and it was very fun.
Very excited to check it out.
Oh, that sounds like a blast. All right. And then coming to the podcast for the first time is Claudia Alick. Did I say that right? Awesome. I love that. Claudia is a cultural producer, performer, and co-host of the live stream show Trek Table. They're also an intersectional inclusion expert with the transmedia social justice practice, Calling Up Justice, which, among many other things, publishes and shares content and resources on justice through a multimedia approach. Welcome, Claudia.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm always excited to talk about Star Trek.
Same.
And Trek Table, I noticed, was gone for a little bit, but it's back, right?
Trek Table is a project that was specifically about loving on Discovery.
Mhm.
Discovery for us was a safety net during the pandemic. It was a project that was specifically about allowing women of color to celebrate in a safe space where we weren't getting attacked by the angry nerds who wanted the show to be something it wasn't. And it was really beautiful. I also have a project called Star Trek Talk that we do weekly. And so today we talked about random Star Trek time travel because we're talking about every time travel episode that's ever existed.
Oh my gosh.
Sounds like a blast.
It sounds like a mind meld thing of stuff of sci-fi.
A mind melding of stuff. I like
And
it.
lots of timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly.
Yeah.
Good.
It has to be, right?
I have to say, I just started today the TNG Doctor Who crossover comic series.
Oh,
It's very fun.
It really is. I only have one of the issues, so I gotta find the rest out there somewhere.
She's finished them. I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah. So is it because you said number 2 was harder to find?
One of them's
Volume
harder to
2,
find, yeah.
right?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Time to scour eBay and Amazon. see what I
Exactly.
can
eBay,
find.
I think, is where I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great little
Yeah.
matchup. Yeah. Coming back to Claudia, though, because you are new on the podcast, we have a couple new guest questions that I'm going to assume Joe sent, so they're not a surprise. Okay. Joe's giving a thumbs up.
I know my stuff.
Okay. So if you're ready, we'll launch into those. Awesome. All right. So, first, since we are a Star Trek podcast and we like to talk about love, why do you love Star Trek?
I come from a generational Star Trek loving family. My mother loved Star Trek. Like, for my mother, Star Trek was a racial justice show. Star Trek was one of the few pieces of dominant culture media that reflected a future where Black women existed and existed well. So my family watched Star Trek like it was going to church. You watched Star Trek. And when the next generation came out, we all watched it together as a family. And then when we all had children, we gifted that to them. So we have got generations of Star Trek lovers. And it's mostly about Uhura, but then also it's about LeVar Burton. And now it's about Michael Burnham. I love my Star Trek.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. Okay. And next question is, which crew or like show is kind of your home base?
You know, that's a hard question for me to answer because I don't do that. Like, I'm a completionist. I watch all the Star Trek and I love every single iteration of Star Trek. Right now, Prodigy is the show that I feel like I want to watch the most right this minute. But if you'd asked me this question a year and a half ago, I would have said Deep Space Nine is my comfort Star Trek show. And if you'd asked me this while Discovery was on the air, I would have said Discovery. So can I say all of them? Can I say every single one?
If you want, this is your answer. And like, I totally understand that. I mean, we kind of flipped it from being favorite to home base because I've found a lot of people have like that comfort show, you know, or like, which I'm calling home base, or I sometimes have thought about it. Like, if you felt like you could like go on the ship of any of the series, like where would you feel most at home, like with the crew or with the ship or both? So if that's a different answer, you can answer that. But I just, I feel like favorite is a very one-dimensional kind of question. So I usually try to flip it
I
around.
think it's a really fun question to say, which Star Trek crew would you like to work with? That sounds like a lot of fun. I do think I'd want to work with the Disco crew. They have the most emotional intelligence. I just feel like they've got the most healthy dynamics going on,
That's true.
despite all the trauma they've lived through.
Awesome. And then last but not least, if you could go on a date with a character, whether it be romantic or platonic, and I know that's, you know, there's tons and tons of characters. So, you know, whoever you're feeling like you'd want to go out with today, who would that be?
When you sent me this question, I was like, I don't have an answer. I'm Ace. I don't watch shows through the lens of shipping. However, it turns out actually, as we were talking about time travel episodes, in the original series, there was an episode where Spock gets sent back in time, and then he's his primal savage self, and he falls in love with a character. And it turns out I am here for a show where Spock falls in love. So I love Spock in romantic situations. I just think it's so much fun. It's my favorite.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it could just be just a coffee date with a friend kind of date too. But I also love that answer.
That's great.
Yeah. Again, however people want to answer, we're happy to accommodate our guests. Thank you for answering those. I love that. We always get something new.
I know. It's so much fun. It's
That's
a fun
why we like
primer as
asking the
jump
questions.
in. Yeah. Well, thank you both. Yeah. Real quick, before we jump into Discovery, which is our topic at hand, I always like to do just a quick segment I call the Trek Check, where I just check in with a few like interesting updates in the Trek world, news and updates about what's going on, because we are living in a wonderful world where we get a lot of cool Star Trek updates now, and I love that. So one thing coming up, this episode will release after the fact, but as we're recording, San Diego Comic-Con's coming up. Matt, are you going?
No, I'm not going to Comic-Con. I am going to the convention next week in Las
that's what it
Vegas.
was. Okay, so you're going to Vegas, but not Comic-Con. But Comic-Con is this weekend as of recording. Star Trek supposedly have a big presence, so we're about to have a bunch of announcements next week. But one exciting one is there's going to be the International Friendship Day panel between Star Trek and Doctor Who. I'm really excited for that. As I'm reading the comic, I'm hoping there's going to be another comic announcement. That'd be really fun. So that's cool. Got a lot of Starfleet Academy cast announcements. Are we feeling excited for Starfleet Academy?
Yes.
I absolutely am.
Yeah. More 32nd
I'm
Century.
So excited. Yeah. More 32nd Century. The cast lineup looks really good. Paul Giamatti.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh my God. What is her name? Helen Hunt? No. Yes.
Holly
Hunter.
Holly Hunter.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. I was like, 2 H's, but the wrong one.
Right? There's a hunt in there.
Yeah,
Holly
yeah.
Hunter,
Yep.
the young people that are going to be in it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we get some. I assume that we'll have some nods to previous Trek from the 60s and from the 90s, and some disco cameos. I'm assuming we'll see pop up too. I'm looking
Sure hope
forward to
so.
it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So I'm excited for that. We also have a big announcement. I think Paramount's merging with Skydance. It's like the corporate stuff, which is not as exciting for me, but probably consequential to Star Trek. We'll see what that hopefully brings.
Hopefully good
Hopefully
things,
positive. I don't
yeah.
know. And then the biggest news has been Star Trek Prodigy season 2 on Netflix, which is very exciting news that got the chance to shine again. And I don't want to get into spoilers since it's like was released all at once and people might be watching at different times. I know just based on being out of town, we've only got a chance to watch the first 2 so far, but I'm really excited to start digging more into it. Have you guys, Claudia and Matt, have you two watched much of Prodigy yet?
Oh, I've only watched it 3 times so far. I liked it so much, I immediately went back to the beginning of season 1 to watch it, and I'm so sad that I can't spoil things for you because there's so many amazing things to spoil. It's because they had enough episodes. 10 episodes isn't enough. You need more than 10 to really get good stories.
Totally.
I gotta agree, Claudia. I have to say that after watching all of season 2, I wanted to go back and watch from season 1 to season 2 without spoiling anything. I will say that with the way that the writers handled season 2, I would be okay with them doing a movie with a giant crossover cast of every era of Trek. I think they could handle something like that very well. Shout out to, Hanalei Hanel. I'm so sorry I'm saying your name wrong. Culpepper. She directed some episodes of Picard and episodes of Discovery.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see her direct that movie. Jonathan Frakes, I'd love to see come in and do something with that kind of story as well. But I say all that to say you'll be very pleased with season 2, I think.
Awesome.
I feel like it's immediately when we're done recording, we're just gonna have to watch the next one.
Just throw it on right after this.
Look at how excited that we can see. We can see everyone. So I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, I'm sure there's like even just what we've seen so far. There's a ton of timey-wimey stuff, so I'm sure it tied into your conversation this morning.
Yeah, timey-wimey. Speak of.
So very excited for that. But yes, watch Prodigy season 2, listeners. If you haven't already, we're going to be getting on it, and it sounds like it's great. So that was our Trek check for today.
Computer status report.
What the hell was that?
Moving on to our topic at hand, though, we are all here. I'm really excited to have more than just one guest. This is kind of a group to just really come together and celebrate all that Star Trek Discovery has brought us with coming to a close season 5. It's bittersweet in a lot of ways, but was kind of the thing that ushered new Star Trek into this what we have today. And it's I think Nicole and I have talked about it before, but it's feel like we kind of have this special place in our hearts for it for sure, because when it debuted, we would go to this local theater here in Minneapolis that would show like a watch party of it every week, and we go with like other Trekkies to watch it on this big screen, and it was just such a special experience. And like I just like feel like I can never like I always associate that with Discovery as being like something special, and just like it'll always be kind of one of my like top 3 shows, no matter what. Even the top 2 always rotate, but I feel like it'll always be up there just because like that like experience with it too. So I'm excited to come celebrate it with you all. We are also, in terms of the love story, we'll talk a little bit about Paul Stamets and HUGH CULBER, one of our favorite couples, and then we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I kind of wanted to guide us all through a few just like reflection questions on Discovery on the whole, just to kind of celebrate what it's done. So first off, Discovery was exciting because it came out the gates promising sort of a new kind of Star Trek show with like some different themes from the older 90s shows, and kind of a more focus on a main character with Michael Burnham. And I know, like, of course, like we talked about, kind of like angry nerd trolls get upset about that, but I think like it's also just really interesting experiment for Star Trek to like do that. I mean, it's kind of had you could argue main characters like had a place in it, but what do you think about like the way that Discovery like jumped and brought Star Trek back into the mold? Like, do you think that was like a Like, what do you think of that endeavor overall as it started out?
I think that Discovery really was an evolution in storytelling for Star Trek. I think that we had a type of storytelling in the 90s with Star Trek that was a bit more formulaic to a certain sense. And then I think when we got Discovery in 2017, I think that the stories were a bit more nuanced. I think that even down to the writing, the language, and the way that the characters spoke, it was a bit more natural. But I think that's just because of the evolution of TV and of how people started to write for characters and started to write for television shows. So I think that Discovery really tried to modernize Trek. And I think that in terms of following Michael Burnham, who is not a captain, whereas we had the captains, the lead of the other shows, following Michael Burnham and just seeing this beautiful journey, I think, of someone who started off I mean, they say mutineer, and I don't like calling her just a mutineer. I don't like. There's something that doesn't sit right with me when I call her that at the beginning of her journey. I just think she was just someone that was trying to find her path, and seeing her at the beginning of this journey, and just seeing what it took for her to get to where we see her at the end of season 5, especially. Oh, I can't remember the season 5 episode where she's in the library. The name of that
Labyrinth?
episode. She's in the
Labyrinth,
library.
yeah.
Or Labyrinth?
Yes. And she really has to come face to face with a lot of the decisions that she's made and why she made these decisions. And you see question by question, layer by layer, that the version of book that she's speaking to has to break apart. I think layer by layer, we almost kind of see season by season the different things that Michael went through to get to where she was. And I think that for Discovery, that's probably the most beautiful story, is showing how this person came from this point A to this point B. I'm not sure if that makes any sense.
100% made
does, yeah.
sense. Yeah.
One of the things that I loved about the original series in TNG was the episodic nature, the fact that they were playing with genre, right? So it's like, oh, you've got this crew of characters, and they're in a Western one day, and they're in a mystery another day, and they're in a shoot 'em up kind of a thing one day, but now it's a trial show. And usually you only get one flavor of storytelling in a show, but Star Trek is like, we're going to hire every sci-fi writer and do everything. All genres are on the table. And that's why Star Trek is not only so awesome and fun to watch, but because it's been evergreen. It's been prolific. We've gotten so many more Star Treks, partially because of that. But after doing that for what, like a couple of decades, 3 or 4 decades, however long it's been in the world, they were like, hey, let's see if we can, in a streaming setting where people are choosing to watch the thing, can we give people a concentrated story where they chose to watch that and they're there to enjoy it? So I love Star Trek Discovery because I love Star Trek Discovery, but I'm not mad at anyone where it's not their flavor. Because honestly, Star Trek Discovery is a concentration of all the things that I love about it. And my complaint every year was that there wasn't 22 episodes, because in my opinion it would have been much like a Doctor Who, right, where Doctor Who, Russell T Davies, it was his formula. He would have like a running through line, so like, yeah, there's a mystery, there's a through line, but in between there would be random other stuff. I did want random other stuff. I wanted to see a Wosakun on an adventure by themselves, where Michael wasn't even in that episode. And I'll also say this, and I'll stop talking for so long, but they spent so much money on the special effects, y'all. They put their foot in them special effects, the sound design, the editing, just like all of the cool space shots. It was gorgeous. It was like a movie. I didn't need all that. I didn't need that. I grew up on 1960s aesthetics. I would have been fine with cardboard sets, y'all. 22 episodes I would have preferred to the smaller number with the beautiful aesthetics. They probably are proud of their choices, though.
Wow, yeah. It's hard to follow up both of those thoughts. What was your original question?
Uh, so Discovery coming out the gate with kind of a very new kind of Star Trek, following a main character, one
Oh yeah, the
arc, that
following the
kind of
main
stuff.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess similar. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it maybe that format maybe limited something. Sometimes, as Claudia just said, like we didn't get maybe some other episodes that we could have gotten with other characters as the A plot. Because even the captains took a break in, previous series, where they were maybe in for like a scene or two and then they were, not the focus for an episode. And there were so many awesome characters on Discovery. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of some, all of them, if I'm honest. Not necessarily in relation to Michael, even though I love Michael immensely. But I don't know. I mean, and again, like bringing something new to the table. That's kind of what Star Trek has always done, and pushing certain boundaries, and not just like the kinds of things we see on screen, but just the way it's coming, the way it's coming to us. Although, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the cinematography, beautiful. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would almost have to agree. At the end of the day, I wish we could have had just a little bit more.
I
Not
have to
only
agree.
episodes in a season, but more seasons.
I think that, yeah, I mean, yes, definitely more seasons. I think that, but it always happens where, to me, it always seems like with Star Trek, the show picks up around season 3, season 4. That's when we start to find out who the characters are, really. That's when, it to me, it seems like the cast even kind of comes together and you see that
Mhm.
chemistry really start to fire up. And for me, with the crew, especially, I didn't really see the crew come alive until, I want to say, season 4. I know that they were trying to push it in season 3, especially, I think it's the episode after Discovery crash lands on the planet, and there's like that Thanksgiving dinner table scene. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't thanks, but where everyone kind of just starts firing off all their different issues, and it was, I think it was necessary to give us more backstory to everybody, or give us more detail into what all the characters were feeling. It seemed a little too all at once. But when we got to season 4, for some reason, for me, each character became more natural in terms of how they were how they were telling their stories. Wushikun and Michael, especially in the episode when they're on that planet, and Oshikun has to fight. Yes, she's got to fight.
Oh, the casino planet. That was like one of my favorite episodes.
I
Yes.
loved it, and I just loved
Yeah.
watching Michael and Oshikun just come together. And Oshikun's like, "I can do this. Let me do this. I can do this." Um, and then in season 5, we get to see Reese in the captain's chair. Um, it was just, I think, the more those moments are natural and kind of just come about as, oh, and then they're over here. Oh, and then they're over here because we need this for this and we need this for that. It's just it's more natural. But it's a shame. Again, it was only in season 4, season 5, but that's when these shows really start to come together, and you don't really get that. And maybe that's a matter of streaming and a matter of just how television is now, where shows don't really get the time that they deserve to really come together and find out what they are. Shows are lucky if they get a season 2 now, in my opinion.
I
That's
share
true.
another idea though, because I think that in the original season, Kirk was the star. It was a show that was designed around the captain, right? So like in the original series, there was a really clear delineation of like how many lines characters got. There were entire episodes where Uhura didn't say a single word, and
Mm.
people didn't complain about it or make a big deal out of it. People only started to seem to complain about Michael Burnham being a central character now. And they would say, well, it's because she's not a captain, so it doesn't make sense. And I go, it doesn't make sense that the story is focused on a character who doesn't have formal hierarchical authority? That doesn't make sense to me. That said, I do wish we'd had more episodes so I could find out more about all of the characters. I just liked them.
Agreed. I think that you guys all bring up some phenomenal points, and I think with in terms of following Michael Burnham, I think one thing that's really exciting about that is like, given what we had with those the amount of episodes, like the journey that she went on was so fun to see. Like in season 5, like there were so many like payoff moments for her. Like I still think about I'm not always like excited about fight scenes. Right, that was not always my thing, but the fight scene between Michael Burnham versus like season 1 Michael Burnham was so cool because it was just like a cool fight, but it also was like thematically was really powerful, showing us just like where she came from and that journey that she had to come on from, like with regards to confidence and like how she sees her own self. And it was just so fascinating and like a small little microcosm of a scene to show like what we got from this whole journey. And I think that was really powerful and really cool that not a lot of other Star Treks can really say at this point, that they were able to bring a character like that far in that kind of a way and show it in that clever of a sequence, I think.
I
So like,
totally agree.
yeah, I think like things like that were really cool. Granted, agreed with more episodes. I'd love to explore the other characters because they did give us so many like rich and cool characters that I feel like had a lot of potential. I'd love to see that. But for what we got, I'm really happy with that. Like I said, that journey. So
Yeah, I have to say, going back to that fight scene where we're seeing younger or earlier, younger Michael fight,
yeah,
fight more or less older Michael. The emotion behind that fight, it made me want to cry at the end because you've got Captain Michael talking to Science Officer Michael, and I'm paraphrasing, but I think she has a moment where she says, "I know that you're angry right now, but it's gonna be more or less it's gonna be okay." I wish I just had a little bit more of that ribbon throughout the episode because it was such a powerful, beautiful moment. Imagine saying that to your younger self or to yourself in a place where you didn't know if everything was going to be okay, if you didn't know if you were going to make it next year, and to see her say that to her younger self was beautiful.
Yeah, well said. My next question for you all, and I'm actually going to answer this one first so I can kind of show you what I'm thinking with this one. So I wanted to ask like your favorite season, but also like aside from that, if it isn't the same, what would you say is like your favorite arc of the show? And when I say it's different for me, like I say my favorite season is season 4. I think I really love the 10C. I think that was just like pure Star Trekky goodness of like this like extra like outside of the dimension or outside of the galaxy, like aliens that we meet, and it's all this misunderstanding. Like that was just peak Star Trek for me. I love that. I love the design of the aliens. I love so many elements of season 4, like learning about Zora. There was kind of some great like, try like Measure of a Man kind of moments, was like finding like the like sentience of Zora. I love that. Loved a lot of great character moments. I'm trying to think. The debate in Starfleet HQ of how to handle the 10C, like so many great moments in season 4. That's really just stands out to me as one of my favorites. And also just like Michael Burnham fully getting to be captain in that season was just really like satisfying too. But I would say one of my favorite arcs of the show comes in season 1, where like we're introduced to this, world, which feels really like dark. We're in the middle of the war, and it's the tardigrade arc, because it's like 3 episodes of learning about this tardigrade creature, and it's kind of like tormented to like advance this war effort. And Michael Burnham and Culber to some extent like have to kind of fight to be like, no, this is wrong. And then of course they realize, yes, it's wrong, and they release it. And it's just like, it was really grim for like the first 2 episodes. And then the 3rd episode, like the coming of like, this is an arc that you would see within like 45 minutes in the 90s Trek, right? And you get to that moral right away, but we had to wait 3 episodes for that moral to come, and it was hard. But I think like looking at that arc as like one thing now, like I really love it. I appreciate it. I also I'm a sucker for like cool like monster creature design, and I love the design of like Ripper the tardigrade. That was awesome. So like that arc, I like come back to it as like some people say like season 1's way too dark. I'm like, it's also like really like hopeful. Like it shows like how dark times can turn into something really hopeful, like if you kind of like see it play out that way. And so I thought that was really powerful. So then my question to you all, favorite season, and if it isn't the same, do you have a favorite arc?
Dang, that was a great answer, Joe.
Thank you.
Jeez.
I thought about it.
Well, yeah, now I have to think on the spot.
Yeah.
I love that question. Also, I'll say this. I don't think those tardigrades are scary or monsters. I think they're cute and adorable.
I think they're great.
I love them so much.
I want like a model of them.
Yes, or a plushie. I would
Yeah.
love a
Yeah.
great plushie. I
Yeah.
really feel like Star Trek's been sleeping on the plushie market.
No, did we
Uh,
just get our Moopsie? We just
we
got the Moopsie, didn't we?
just got the
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, it's wild. I think my favorite. I'm not somebody who can say my favorite season because I love
Mhm.
all the Star Treks. I couldn't say my favorite Star Trek show, but I
That's
can
fair.
say an arc that I loved. I love the specificity of that question. I loved the arc of Zora figuring out I'm a fully sentient being and I have feelings, and my feelings have to I need to understand how I feel to function well as a ship, and other people have to recognize me and my wholeness, and how it's the trans characters that
Mm.
help her figure out her realness, her beingness, and it just feels so appropriate, so right. I really liked how those stories were told. I like that arc. Zora's arc.
For me, I gotta say that again, season 4 for me is one of my favorite seasons. Season 4 and season 5, but season 4 the most, just because to me it really was a return to more exploring certain themes in Star Trek. And it was beautifully stretched out, I think, over things that were happening with the president of the Federation and not quite knowing her intentions. There was a little bit of political mystery there. Um, I mean, you have the drama between Book and Michael Burnham that's happening in that season. That added a whole other layer where you totally see and understand Book's reasoning for wanting to go after the 10C and just wanting to react and destroy this unknown thing. Um, so I enjoyed the return to a bit more of thematical Star Trek for season 4. I think that my favorite arc was in season 5 because to me the exploration that Culber has in regards to trying to figure out I guess what is his relationship with spirituality more or less.
Yes.
And it's a consistent thing going on through season 5 where he has now I'm trying to remember, is it just the experience of coming out of the mycelial network that kind of drives him to that place? Oh no, it's him being inhabited by the Trill.
Janal.
Janal,
Yeah.
yes.
No. Yeah.
It's him being inhabited by Janal, and all of a sudden this new world is opened up for Culber, and he's trying to seek out what is my understanding with this new world that's been opened up for me. He recalls on the memories of his grandmother, I believe, right?
Yeah.
His grandmother. Stamets even has a moment with him where Stamets says, well, maybe you don't need to try to understand this. Maybe you just need to enjoy it. And, for me personally, I was someone who was raised in church. I was going to church on Sunday, Bible study, Tuesday, Wednesday, all these different things. So, while I had some kind of foundation as a child, there was the missing element of me figuring out what do I believe personally, and me actually taking the action of going out and figuring out what that meant for me. And to be very honest, I'm still kind of on that journey right now. And so to watch Culber go through that made the journey that I'm going on easier. And so I enjoyed watching someone just explore it. And again, that little bit of wisdom from Stamets saying, maybe try not to question it too much. Just let it happen. So that's my favorite arc, I have to say.
Beautiful answers. I'm glad you all gave me so much time to think about this because now I can actually answer it. Um, I'm gonna it. I kind of agree. I think it's especially with Discovery, it's hard to pick a favorite season. I do really love season 4, but I think I'm gonna take a step back to season 3, because I think that's when this crew really started to find their stride, and because that's when we started in the 32nd century, and I think that was I don't know. It was I the first 2 seasons I expressed to you multiple times. I was like, "Oh, like, we're in this time period again." Like I'd really wanted to see something beyond, right? And so then like I got more than got my wish with this 900 and some year jump into the future. And I just really enjoyed watching the crew kind of come into that century. I know it was really hard for them and there was a lot of trauma, but I also think that that brought out a lot of beautiful moments, not only in that season, but then further on. I think, they kind of had to go through that in order for us to, not that they had to like suffer, but just like, I think that there was payoffs to like exploring what that would be like to, not to be so far from home, like not just like physically, geophysically, or spatially, but like time wise, and just how the crew grew from there. But arc wise, and I'm gonna kind of cheat and have two, but I think my top one is maybe Adira's arc throughout the entire series. I think that they started out right with like the Trill, and like I felt like Adira could not maybe be on their own, or they really struggled with that. And not only did they just feel like they found their place, and when Gray became like outside, got a new body to exist in, and then there was still that like they were very close, and they formed this family with Stamets and Culber, but then Gray decides that what's best for him is to leave and go to Trill and go on that journey that was meant for him, and you can see Adira's really like nervousness with that, but then like in this final season when they had to kind of acknowledge where they were at in their relationship, and that scene I also felt it was just like beautiful. And then coinciding with that was Adira also finding their place on the ship, and they're finding their voice. And we could tell, they showed us as the audience how smart Adira was or is, and Adira recognizing that. And anyway, I could just go on, but Adira was wonderful. And I think that arc was amazing. And I feel like I'm not even giving it justice with my words, but I think I'm getting the gist across. But as a runner up, I'd also have to say Saru real quick, Saru's arc, because I mean, we all saw, right? The like coming from like thinking that he finding his power and his strength also. I mean, I'm just going to like summarize it at that, and played, both of those characters were played beautifully by Blue DeBarrio and Doug Jones. And anyway, I could just go on, but we should move on to other topics.
I know you was going to talk about romance, and man, Saru and Trina's romance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. We
The
could probably
fire.
We should have a follow-up episode for them too. Jeez. We did do one on them.
We did them like in season
early.
Early, and we got to do follow up.
I almost feel like we did it too early. We were so excited though.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Good answers.
Thank you.
I think on that note where you're talking about moving to the 32nd century, I think that most of us like agree that that was a really like exciting move for the show, and like really brought it into this new dimension, and really like made it very unique in that way. But what would you say would be your favorite thing that Discovery brought to Star Trek canon? Like maybe it's a new piece of technology, or like a new like concept or idea, or like like the mycelial network, for example, or something. So Claudia, you ready?
No, there's so many. There's too many.
I know there's so many.
I was immediately going to say Klingon time crystals, because that's what we talked about.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
We realized, Discovery invented that, and it keeps on paying off.
Yeah.
But also the mycelial network. Come on, that's the most brilliant thing.
Oh gosh, there are so many. I can talk about the technology that was brought in from the 32nd century. I could talk about, the contribution to Captain Pike's character, the depth that was given there. I think it is a very powerful concept to give a character the knowledge that they know what's going to happen to them in the future.
And it's not good.
And it's not good.
It's hard.
And yet, yeah. And yet they continue on anyway. I think that is that's heavy. That is heavy, and but also very beautiful to watch. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now. Something else is going to come to me while we're talking, but
I forgot about the time crystal. That's a good one
Yeah.
too. I forgot about that one. Season 2 sometime, I don't know why, but season 2 is the one I think I like sometimes can't remember as much, but there's a lot of good in there. I think like it's hard. It's hard for me too. I feel like I made the question now. I don't have. I can't remember my own answer. But like, I think like the 32nd century is just always like one that appeals to me too, and just like in just creating like this new like kind of community of Starfleet that I really liked. I think like just seeing how they were able to like advance the technology is really fun. I think the like the kind of updated comm badges, how they can be like the personal transporters. They I could see how that could be challenging for like a storytelling perspective, where it's like you have all of that right there. You can basically manifest your phaser. But I think that overall the writers did a pretty good job like showing how like some of those can be really fun. Like we had some pretty exciting chase sequences with the personal transporters, like moving them from place to place. I think those were really interesting. I will say that since I mentioned it right away, I think my favorite probably is the Mycelial Network. I got a chance to write an article for a site that I write for about the science behind it, and just kind of like digging into it myself. I thought it was really fun to learn more about, and I think it's a really like unique contribution to canon. And I know that was like stressful at first for a lot of people, like, oh, does it fit in with, canon, and this is in the past and blah blah blah. But once they have the freedom to play around with it more in the future, I think that like it's just a really cool idea, like a different idea, a different concept, like. And it led to the storyline, the idea that the dilithium had exploded, and like they had the kind of the unique only mode of travel there. Like that was a fun way to play with that concept, like with the burn and all that. I think that's a good answer. I also think like we got a lot of really cool new races. I like even the Kelpians with Saru, like that was the great. I like the kind of like predator prey relationship with the Baul, I think it was, right?
Yeah, the bow.
Yeah, Baul, that was it. Yeah. And
Good
like
recall.
that was interesting. I don't even remember the name of it, but I always think about the butterfly people from the beginning of season 4.
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
They just look so cool.
Them.
They look so cool, like things like that. And we had some like great, like just interesting creature designs, like the transworms, like books, that he's saving the creatures,
man.
like things like that. Like that when they were able to utilize the updated technology and the special effects to some extents like that, like when when you're able to do like things like that, I really enjoyed that stuff. So like I think a lot of that is my answer.
Okay.
That's a lot of things. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, give it some love. What was that?
Are there any things left?
I don't know. Probably
you did bring this up, or someone I think brought this up. I'm gonna say. I mean, I know we kind of talked about Zora in the sense of, but I also feel like I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, that concept. I think oh my God, I didn't even think this through. Like the idea just popped into my head, but like I think the concept of Zora, and especially Zora being, kind of, whether you want to say an artificial intelligence or just like just an intelligence, I guess, is really, but like that's not malevolent. I think is refreshing.
Oh, we have always like evil AI, and that was not.
Yeah, because that's kind of always the thing, and I liked this like different spin that Star Trek took with Zora in, especially for a being or an entity that like has so much knowledge, but like kind of understanding their place, and again, kind of finding Zora finding their power. I think, and exploring that was a really cool concept that Trek brought in with this 32nd century and just this crew and this show. So. Not eloquent with it, but
no, I think that's great. I think I want to piggyback off what you're saying, though. Like you kind of reminded me of the idea that Star Trek historically, all the series have sort of like the character that looks at humanity from this outside perspective, like starting with Spock back in the day. Like we had the Data, the Doctor, Odo to some extent, I would say quite a bit. And at first, like in this one, it was Saru a little bit, who was kind of like saying, I can see it from this different perspective. But then like you also like Zora is an interesting example of that too. Like somebody who's, but it's also like
the technology.
Yeah,
it's sort of it's Data, like Android.
Yeah, like finding that.
Odo's not really tech, but
true. But like with like the Data, the Android, but like the Doctor, of course, being like a photonic being, and then like having this kind of, it's like an interesting progression that we see.
I know you think they can't like up it, and then they do, which is what I love.
I also want to kind of just give the flowers. This is another question I'm moving on to here. To a lot of the side characters in Star Trek Discovery, and I think you always hear the fan criticism or people saying like, "Oh, Discovery doesn't give enough like time to other characters, so like bridge crew or blah blah blah," whatever they're saying.
I could give you a different show that didn't do that well. Anyway,
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
That was my biggest complaint about Picard.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's the same. Yeah. But I wanted to recognize that I think like other than like Deep Space Nine, I think that this show has kind of like this richest well of like characters that aren't in the main cast that keep coming back and I think they get development throughout it. Like I think examples I think of like Admiral Cornwell from the first few seasons. I got L'Rell, Commander Nan, Reno,
Vance.
Admiral Vance is another one. I got Kovich, Tarina, President Rillick, like these characters that kind of go and come, and they're not, again, they're like side characters, but they get that development just like we talk about in Deep Space Nine, like Rom or Alita and all these different characters. And I think that's not always recognized enough with Discovery. So I wanted to ask you all, in terms of a not main character, but a character that comes in, like, did you have a favorite or one you're always like, yes, I'm excited that they're in this episode, you know?
Probably Giorgio.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, It was always really exciting, and I was kind of sad to see her departure, but I felt like it was done in it was done very well, and in a cool way too. So Michelle Yeoh is amazing. So I got to say, probably her.
Good answer.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Sorry.
It's funny because I answered right away.
Answers I'm holding back. I realize I often say 900 things, so I'm letting others speak before I go. Because I've got 35 answers.
It's okay. It's what podcasts are for.
I'll probably have to agree and say Philippa Giorgio as well. I just think I've never seen a show take a character. Well, I mean, I guess it happens all the time, but maybe Star Trek hasn't done it, where they take one version of this character that we know, and we think that they're gone, we think that they're dead in 2 episodes, and then they completely flip it and they bring us a whole different version of this character, and you get to watch that person's arc go from beginning to end. And I think we see the opposite of who Prime Philippa Giorgio is, and we kind of see this journey of Mirror Philippa going and growing into a Prime Philippa in terms of, I guess, beliefs or love, care of any kind. Because Mirror Philippa, to a certain extent, didn't have that kind of compassion. So to see that kind of arc, I thought was really cool.
100%. You don't get a lot of amazing anti-heroes in Star Trek. Star Trek tends to go neutral good. It tends to have, like, if you're supposed to like a character, they tend to have really solid ethics. And we got to see Giorgio
That's a good point.
Grow into that. Love this character. I'm going to say I was having trouble choosing because I love me some Detmer and Awosakun. They had such a great vibe and dynamic together. But I think I'm actually going to say, the truth is, I was there for side characters who didn't have lines. So like Linus fully coming into his own in the 5th season, I was like, yes, yes, finding out about Linus's children. Yes, I love it. And Ariam, I loved so much. I'm disabled, so I tend to, like, there was an extra, right, who's a wheelchair user who loves Star Trek and was just in, like, they were like, yeah, we're just gonna, like, we want to show that in the future people use wheelchairs. We don't disappear the wheelchair. It exists. And that's beautiful. It's not that they're going to make disabled people disappear. It's that disability looks different. And Ariam's character is a disabled character. And I think that Ariam was like, because I think that Detmer also gives us some story beats that are about disability and dealing with a disabled identity and figuring that out. But I loved Ariam's character, and I was so sad when Ariam died. It was just like, So yeah, I'm going to say Ariam.
I have only watched that episode with Ariam from season 2, I think, one time. because it was so heartbreaking. I have not revisited it because it makes me cry. There are a couple of episodes like that in all of Trek that I'm like, no, I will not. I think another one is Voyager. I think the episode is Course Oblivion.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can't watch that one. That makes me
I'm
so
like,
sad.
nope, not doing
Oh.
it. Yeah, I can count on one hand how many times I've watched that episode since Voyager has been on.
That show's so good.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, we could just keep going round and round
Yeah,
with
I
the
know.
side characters.
Yeah. I guess you started us off with Giorgio. That's true. But
Well, did you
Did
kind
I
of
go?
gave some examples.
yeah, I just gave some examples. Honestly, I think at this point, I just want to shout out Vance. I think, I mean, and also to some extent, Admiral Cornwell, because we had so many like bad admirals that we always were expecting them to be bad. But I was just excited that they were like fleshed out, interesting, good characters. Like I liked Oded Fair. I like the Mummy. You know, I liked watching that back in the day. So like seeing him pop up, I was really excited. I was like, oh, he's from the Mummy. But so I thought that he was just like this really nice, like, he's a fun character, and he kind of always went to bat for the Discovery crew a little bit, and was kind of always like on their team a little bit, and that was just kind of fun to have like that person like in Starfleet. So I always enjoyed anytime you got to see him show up. So kind of a silver fox.
He's Admiral Dad to me all day long, and Admiral Daddy even. And when Vance and Tilly were like just having a drink at the end,
Yeah.
oh come on,
Great
yeah.
scene. Yeah,
that was so good.
Damn. Also Tilly. Damn it. I want to talk about Tilly.
Yeah, those main characters though, right?
I know. Yeah, we haven't.
Yeah,
even touched
it's
on
like
main
just a
characters,
wonderful
but, like,
cast of main characters too, right?
Tilly's had a great arc as well.
Yeah.
Ugh.
My last question for you all before we dig into Culber Stamets romance stuff, and this is kind of a theme question. So I think that all Star Treks have lots and lots of themes that they explore, and I think I was trying to, when I was writing questions, to distill like the themes that I think Discovery really like exemplified. And I think I got like major themes of like identity, finding your identity. There's unity amongst the crew and community, connection, addressing trauma, and redemption, especially in terms of like Giorgio we're talking about, strongly all tied to like this humanistic lens that I think is from Star Trek in the beginning. Like all of those things represent that, just looked at through a different kind of lens. Do you feel like there's a theme, either one that I listed or that you've picked up throughout the series, that really exemplifies Discovery, or that just like connected with you the most while watching the series?
Okay, I'm gonna start with, and I think Claudia kind of mentioned this from the get-go at the beginning of this episode, emotional intelligence and the power that has, and that was fully on display. Was that season 4, the 10C, when learning how to communicate with the 10C,
the math language? Yes.
Well, yes, but then also the emotions.
Yes.
I mean, yes, there was math, which also appreciate, but also like the emotions.
Yes.
And and just like we had Troy back in the day as like a counselor, but like, man, Culber is like the ship therapist, and also seeing Culber struggle too with like the some of his own like existential questions and spirituality, and also essentially having been dead and then coming back from that. Like, he's been through some shit himself, but then he's also like counseling everybody else and being, a therapist for Book, who lost his literally entire planet and world and everybody he ever really knew and loved. And I don't know. Wow, I don't even know what tangent I went off on. I was just excited suddenly. I think like, yeah, the power, and that's a lot of Michael's journey too, where she was trying to suppress emotion being raised by Vulcans, and I think, like Labyrinth we talked about already, and even at the end when she like the decision that she makes with the progenitors technology, or rather the non-decision, it's still a decision. I'm not going to, I walk that back. It wasn't a non-decision. It was a decision. Anyway, I just feel like that was like the pinnacle of like emotional intelligence. And like, it's almost like the reverse of being a Vulcan, where it's like, instead of suppressing emotions, she was like open to all of them. And like the power that she could have had in her hands. And I feel like being able to be like recognizing that, and I feel like she felt it, and then she made the decision that she made. I don't know. Okay.
I got to piggyback off of that, because just thinking about, and I think I just wanted to shout out to Sonequa Martin Green for the performance that she has given over the seasons, because I went back after the end of season 5 and I started to watch Discovery again, and just watching Michael Burnham in season 1 and seeing how Vulcan she was, and seeing how decisive she was about everything, and everything was a matter of fact, and this has to be done, this is the only logical choice. And even that would be shout out to the writers for putting in that little, putting in the word logic in her text, because again, she was raised by Vulcans. So to see this person that has emotions, is human, but has worked to suppress them, and for Sonequa to give colors and flavors of that in the beginning, and then to see by season 3 we really start to see a shift in that character, and that character is more impulsive. And I think in an interview when season 3 came out, I think Sonequa said she was talking to Jonathan Frakes when he was directing one of the episodes in season 3, and he said there's something different. He either said something different about you or different about the character, and she had said, my character is no longer operating from a place of fear. If I remember correctly, and to watch that happen over season 1 to 3, and then finally to see some a bit more balanced by season 5, I think was a beautiful thing. So I'm just agreeing with you what you said.
Thank you.
I'm going to agree with you both. And I think that I'm going to say that the themes I liked the most in the show were transformative justice and healing. And oftentimes in these shows, you get those for just a 3-episode arc, maybe a 2-episode arc, where it's like, oh, we're going to see Picard get fully destroyed by like the Borg or the Cardassians. And then maybe there's one episode or like a moment where he's like, I'm kind of shook. But then we're going to move on and we're going to act like that nothing happened and the characters are fine and there's no residual trauma from any of those things after years and years and years of epic, mind-blowing stuff happening to them. What I loved about the show that we watched with Discovery was that it always was trying to find a path to justice that wasn't the easy path. It wasn't just about punishing people. It was about people being transformed. So you have the entire, Tyler arc where it's like, oh, who is the enemy? What is an enemy? Isn't the entire point to transform this relationship with other species to make it, instead of being antagonistic and being enemies, being together in the universe? And then also this healing piece of, it's not only about, bad stuff happens and we live with it and we grow through it and we get better, but also we have to acknowledge harm and pain, and we sometimes have to take time to work through it. Like it took Book an entire season to get back with Michael after the pain and trauma and harm that he had done to the universe and himself. He had to do some healing work. And I liked that future Star Trek didn't just send him to jail. They had him work it out with community service. I liked that.
Right.
Yeah. Well said. Dang. Look, we have a top emotional intelligence, and I mean, Claudia piggybacked off of that too with justice and
agreed with everything you all say. I think in coming up with just like the question, I was one of the ones that I will try to like shout out a little bit to me is just like the theme of connection. And I think that season 5 for me is what solidified that bit, because I think that it explored how like what connection looks like from different like viewpoints and different angles. And I think that was like exemplified a lot with like the Raynor character, and like kind of coming in like really cold, and like everyone's like, no, you got to like really warm up, and like kind of everyone realizing like we can't really pull him all the way into where a lot of the crew is. You kind of have to meet him a little bit halfway. And I think like seeing like different forms of connection and what that looks like to different people, and how like these olive branches are extended in different ways. And like, I feel like one example for that is like this small interaction that Raynor had with Adira, where like Adira was feeling not confident on the bridge, and Raynor was just like kind of this tough love, like, no, you got this. Like, I'm not really leaving you because you can do it.
Mhm.
And it was just like I thought it was a really like beautiful moment for that character. And so like, I think like the way that Discovery has evolved and showing like what connection can look like amongst different types of people was a really powerful theme for me too.
Real quick, because you're talking about Raynor, I
Mhm.
think, and because Michael is the star of the show, the way that Michael handled Raynor with the brain stuff was, I mean, she didn't mince some things when she needed to, but she also like took the time to recognize it, took a moment and, again, reached out kind of into that emotional well to understand his trauma with the brain. And I don't know, it was a little bit both ways. Like, she had to be captain and she kind of had to lay down, there was a time where shit needed to get done and decisions needed to be made, and maybe some things didn't need to be said out loud, but like also she didn't just like reprimand him. She also, took the effort to connect with him and his trauma and understand like where they could go from there. So anyway,
Great
I just want to
points.
shout out like some of those scenes in the last season. They were powerful.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, thank you all for answering the questions. I was really excited to just like dig into Discovery like deeply like that. I know, like, again, our shtick is sort of like, love and, love stories,
But
but it's
we
also
love
like we're loving
Discovery.
on the, I was gonna say, like, loving on the show itself is like really nice to be able to do. And so thank you for all the answers. That being said, now we will do it like a more formal love story element. I want to just talk a little, we just want to talk a little bit about HUGH CULBER and Paul Stamets, because, well, we did episodes on Michael Burnham and Book earlier, and I'd like to revisit that. I think both of us would like to revisit that. We also did a Saru Tarina episode, and we'd like to revisit that as well, now that the show is kind of, their arcs have come to where they are. But I think, like, in terms of like having an episode of our podcast that's really celebrating all of Discovery, I think HUGH CULBER and Paul Stamets really exemplify like this show in a lot of ways, because they were the couple that was there at the beginning and there at the end. And I think that's a really meaningful thing to say and to talk about. So I just open it up. How was it to you all, seeing this couple, right out the gate in season 1? Like, we see them, one of our first sequences with them is them brushing their teeth together in that one, in their pajamas. It's a really nice scene. But like, how they grew, and how we got to see their relationship involved, how we got to see it depicted on screen, just the very, like, the notion of it being there. What did you all think about that?
I've been desperate for representation that didn't feel pained or awkward for so long. Like, I was thirsty, y'all. Like, I was watching Riker with a cis hetero actress woman acting like they were non-binary, and I was like, this is great. This is great. I was watching Jadzia have a weird, messed up relationship with her ex-wife and being like, this is progress. And it wasn't, y'all. We didn't get it until now. Progress was watching an entire episode of two people, and I didn't know they were a couple until they were brushing their teeth together. And it was so regular and it was so real. I liked that.
I have to say, I enjoyed the teeth brushing. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that scene. I also have to say that I enjoyed the first scene where I think we see the two of them together, Culber and Stamets, where Stamets broke his nose, and
Yeah.
Culber is in there just, stitching away at him. On one hand, I was like, you know what? Stamets is a little rude. Why are you with him? Like, at first I was like, you're not going to talk to me that way. But at the same time, I appreciate that Culber knows how to handle him and brushes it off. And I think that's when I saw the dynamic of these two. And I immediately knew who these people were. Obviously, we get more depth throughout the other episodes and seasons. But I think that little moment right there, I said to myself, oh, okay. That's what this is. That's how this works. Okay.
Oh wow, what to say about these two? I mean, it's wild because they each had their own individual arcs and journeys, right? And then they had this journey together as a couple, and it's I love both of those actors. They're amazing. Oh,
Did you meet
what?
Anthony Rapp?
I didn't
On
meet
rec?
him.
Oh, you saw him on stage, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him on stage, and then I bought a playbill that he signed.
That was what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah. You're thinking of
Adam Pascal, right?
Adam
The other one
Pascal's
from
the one I
Rent, yeah,
saw at
that's
Panera
right.
Bread, but I didn't say anything because I don't like to bother people. But I saw him anyway. Total tangent. These two, yeah, they're such a natural couple. But then they also go through some wild stuff, some wild sci-fi things. But they come out the other side still amazing. And oh god, I had some other thoughts I was gonna say, and I can't remember what they were. Is there something that you can contribute
I
right
can
now?
jump in and you could think. I
maybe
think I'm glad, Matt, you brought up this like abrasiveness of Stamets, because I think that we see that a lot. And then when in season 2, when he has to kind of like go back into the mycelial network and pull Culber back to like our universe, our reality, essentially, and Culber kind of has this like crisis of like, I don't really know, I'm not sure who I am. I'm not sure if this relationship is where I should be at this time. And we kind of have to see like the opposite of like Stamets being like, okay, I need to work here, like to like help guide him through this journey and like be the person that he needs me to be. And so I think that it was a smart idea. I think the Culber dying was, contentious and a probably not great thing, but I think when they were able to take it back and like handle it a different way, there's like elements I can forgive about it because it gave us some interesting journeys from there. So like I really enjoy seeing that. But like, yes, I think all the things that you're all saying about like them being such a natural couple, I think there's just like this anchor element to them. Like all of the crew is going through like these, intense journeys, and there's lots of trauma that's happening, and like addressing all these moments, but there's just like this sort of foundational element to them. Just like I always generally felt comfortable that like they're like kind of a rock there, and especially how they were able to kind of create this found family element, like Nicole, you mentioned earlier, with Adira and Gray, and like almost a parental role in a
Space
sense.
dads.
Space dads, exactly. Yeah, like I thought that was really really like nice, and like just small moments that contribute to something. Like I think like sometimes the show could get really wrapped up in the big ideas and like action scenes, but like having those small moments, like they were very powerful and they were there for sure. So all of that was great for me. And again, like I think Claudia, you were mentioning this, like in terms of the representation piece, like I'm just so glad like this show gave us a lot of people were able to see themselves that hadn't before, and I'm glad that that's there, and I'm sad that it's gone, and I wish that other Star Treks were kind of bringing that more into it almost at this point too.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that we see more of it in the Academy show for sure.
I do just want to shout out real quick how well they like both slipped into like dad roles. I mean, just amazing. It's like it was like already there, but that was really beautiful. Like there wasn't like an awkwardness. Sorry. There wasn't like an awkwardness to it, especially with like, Adira and Gray are not teenagers, but like almost, right? So I think kind of dealing with some of those like kind of younger adult angst, like they were just, I think it was a testament to how solid those two were at their respective points in their relationship that was so played out so well on screen, and that that it was, I don't want to say believable, but just like magic. It was actually magical, really. I don't know. I'm gonna let you continue, Claudia.
No, I was building on your idea, because one of the things I loved is I'm a hardcore show nerd. So I'm going to love the text that the showrunners wrote, and I'm also going to love all the fan stuff, and I'm also going to want to love the story of how the show was put together. And first of all, Wilson Cruz, Anthony Rapp, they're amazing actors who have amazing careers that I have been tracking for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I love them from Rent. I love the work that they have done just as human beings and as activists in the world. Wilson Cruz was dope to me on Twitter. Like always would reply back to me and have conversations and retweet me saying complimentary stuff. I was like, thank you, Wilson Cruz. Thank you for your activism. And also Anthony Rapp. he was so cool with Blue, and I'm bad with the actors' names, but like he was so cool with those characters. Like they were queer fam bam, but also they were friends. Like they were show dads. They did a D&D show.
That's
where
right.
they
Yes.
were they were like playing in the high, like it had nothing to do with Star Trek. It was just a sign that the actors on that set were fundamentally decent, friendly people who got along with each other and chose to do another side project together that I enjoyed very much. So yes, this is me yes anding your Anthony Rapp love, and also like the love that they seem to have in a family way for some of the other characters on the show. Those two actors did such a phenomenal job.
And I'm gonna yes and in regards to I think the concept of what happens a lot in the LGBTQ plus community in terms of found family and creating a family when sometimes your biological family disowns you or excludes you because of who you are, and to see Paul and Culber and Adira and oh my gosh, the other character, Adira,
Great.
Great.
Gray, and the ship's engineer,
Auntie Rena.
Reno Tignataro, yeah.
I love
Reno,
Auntie
yes, Reno, who was like auntie, uncle,
Yeah.
Reno, who
Oh,
had
yeah.
that, when Reno in season 5 is talking to Stamets um about Adira, saying, okay, so Adira hasn't seen Gray in a while. You see what's going on, right? And Stamets is like, no, and and oh my god, Reno
right?
says,
Yeah.
oh boy, okay, um, that family dynamic, seeing that family dynamic come together like that, start to form in season 4 and be fully realized in season 5 is a beautiful thing. But I think in terms of that theme extending and showing us what happens outside in the LGBTQ plus world, I think was a beautiful thing to watch.
I'm glad Discovery gave it to us.
Yes. We, just to kind of put a button on it all, we have a little romance rating scale that we like to do. Matt, you might remember this. But we have a 5-point scale in which we just kind of like rate how the episode, or in this case, the series, handled the love story. And I think that we all probably are in agreement already. We've already kind of explained those thoughts, but we always like to bring it up. Our 5-point scale is as follows. We have a red alert, which is a toxic relationship, a yellow alert, which is slightly above toxic, but not very good, a fascinating, which we like it where it's going, but not quite sure about it, a fully functional, means it's a fully functional relationship, and a resistance is futile, it's a too hot to handle kind of relationship. Where for all of you would Culber Stamets fall on our scale?
Wait, okay, hold on, I have to remember because I'm trying to remember all the different.
Yeah.
What's the most the best one?
Resistance is futile. I think that's where we're all at. Yeah.
All right. Because I was trying to figure it out. So like so Tyler and Michael were red alert territory.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And resistance is futile. So, yeah. Is that where you're at, Matt?
With Culber and Stamets, I think their resistance is futile. I think they're the healthiest. I think next to probably, I want to say probably Cisco and Cassidy Yates, who also had a very healthy relationship as well. I think that Paul and Stamets had one of the healthiest relationships in Trek.
Yeah, Girardi Collective all the way, baby. Resistance is futile.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I will agree with you all. I think that we all basically said it, but just wanted to finalize it. Where resistance is futile, I think it's just, like I said, just this foundational rock of the show. I think other relationships go through some different waves, and it was great. Resistance is futile all the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna fourth it. I don't. Yeah, when Culber was having a tough time after having died and after coming out of the mycelial network, and like the relationship was kind of like on a. It was on some stuff, and I was like, please no.
Yeah.
Especially everything that had kind of happened, and I was like, they need to make it, or I don't know, maybe I quit the show. Maybe I quit a
Well, I
Star
mean,
Trek show.
a very beautiful thing that you see in that moment where Culber's talking to Stamets saying, I don't quite know who I am or what's happening to me after this
Mhm.
whole situation that happened, death, life coming out of the mycelial network. And Stamets, as painful as it is, listens to him, which is very important. He listens to him and he says, okay, you need that time. You should have that time. And that's, in any relationship, when someone is asking for space, it's very, if you're on the receiving end of someone saying, I need space, it is very difficult to not be selfish in that moment, not to paint anyone that is going through pain because someone is asking you for space, not to paint that person in a bad light, but
For
it's
sure.
not the easiest thing to step aside and say, okay, you need to, it's not about me anymore, it's about you, and you have to figure out whatever it is that's going on. So to see that take place with the two of them was something I really enjoyed, and I thought was so necessary, and it's rare.
That is true. I agree with that.
Would you all say that rather than using the term like star-crossed lover, would you say mushroom-crossed lover?
Fungus crossed.
Is that bad or is that good? I don't know. Dad joke?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's dad joke territory.
Well,
we can say mycelial-crossed lovers. Does that work?
Mycelial-Crossed. Yes, I like it. That's the title.
Yeah.
That's the title. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the title. Thank you. Thank you. I've explained this before in previous episodes. I painted myself in a corner with this podcast to give every episode a title with love in it, since that was kind of our shtick, and it's gotten increasingly harder for me. At first, I was like, "Oh, I got this," but now it's like, "Oh, I don't know."
I think you're doing just fine.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But thank you to Claudia and Matt for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation. Some absolutely phenomenal insights.
I could go for another 3 hours.
I know
probably,
there's so much to talk about. I actually had questions that I didn't even talk because we kind of touched on them in other ways, but this was great. Matt, this is your second time on the show. Claudia, the invitation is absolutely open. Anytime you ever want to come back on, talk more Star Trek, more Discovery, something else, we'd love to have you. Before we close out, though, chance for you guys to share, plug anything that you're working on, any social sites where people can find you if you'd like. Claudia, you want to go first?
Sure. I think that y'all should support Trek Talk every Thursday afternoon. Maya Mama and I live stream talking about Star Trek stuff, random Star Trek stuff that we choose the previous week. So that's Trek Talk. But also just go to callingupjustice.com. We have so many fun things.
All right. And I will link both of those things in our notes for sure.
Awesome.
How about you, Matt?
And for me, follow me on Instagram at 1701BLERD. I created a web series. If you haven't listened to DS Love Pod before, I created a web series called 1701: A Blurred Story. It's about a Black queer male nerd who sees his life through the eyes of Star Trek because he's a Star Trek fan. I try to make some commentary on being a Black man in America and not always fitting in because of my love of Trek. I try to also make some commentary on the queer community, and some of the unspoken unhealthy things in regards to racism that the queer community has fallen victim to and is still working through. The third episode, the season finale, the third episode is out now. Again, go to at 1701BLERD and check it out. Let me know what you think. This is a personal story. I'm going to be writing more. I'm writing episode 4 right now. So, so yeah.
Oh, also, I forgot to say, check out TrekTablePodcast.com. We've got 4 years worth of women of color speaking about, we would spend 2 hours on one episode. It's a lot. I highly recommend it.
It's great. I've listened to Trek Table, and 1701 A Blurred Story is phenomenal. Episode 3 was great. So also I'll recommend it.
And yeah, I mean, we talk more about that on, was it episode 22?
22.
Yeah.
This podcast.
So,
all right. Well, real quick for everyone joining us through your earbuds or your car radio or whatever it is, thank you for listening in to this episode on Discovery and loving on Discovery with us. If you like the show, please rate and review. You can find us on Instagram at DSLovePod. I think
on Threads and Blue Sky
Threads
too.
And Blue
That's,
Sky.
I
I don't
got
have.
that, yeah.
I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't do those accounts, but you do.
Yeah.
So
I try.
you can find us there too. And otherwise, we've got some more stuff coming up for you this summer. And until then, love long and prosper.